Okay, so we are going to continue with our factoring quadratics. Yesterday we had ax squared plus bx plus c, where, of course, equal to 0. A is not always 1. I also told you, I think 2 lessons ago, that first step is always factor out any GCF, greatest common factor. You have to. So again, after that, we're going to find factors of C with a sum of B. So 2 numbers that multiply together to give you your C number, but when you add them together, give you your B, and then set as binomials. One of the biggest problems or hard spots with factoring is the signs. And I always think it's a good idea to keep a little cheat sheet at the top of your page to make sure, it helps you just make sure that you've got your signs correct. So if in your initial problem here, you've got a plus and a plus, so ax squared plus bx plus c, and then in your binomials, you end up with, if you've got a minus and then a plus, you've got a minus minus. But if you have a plus minus or a minus minus, remember, and this is specific. If the minus is first here and then a plus, it's 2 minuses. But if it's a plus first and then a minus, or a minus minus, a plus minus, or a minus plus, it just doesn't matter what order it is, as long as you have the correct numbers associated with the correct sign. Okay, so let's start jumping in. Basically, we're going to go through different situations and factor what we have. So here we have k squared minus 9k. We're going to, if we have a GCF, and we do, it's k. So I'm going to factor out my k, which means we're basically going to divide everything by k. So k squared divided by k is k, and then 9k divided by k is 9. Goes back to, I'm trying to remember what we did yesterday. On the lesson yesterday, I was, I believe, if you bear with me for a minute. No, I was not actually showing the dividing. So we're basically dividing out a k here. So if you wanted to think back to, you would divide each piece by k, k squared divided by k, and now we're going back to rules of exponents, gives you k, and then 9k divided by k gives you minus 9. And then remember, we keep our denominator on the outside. So we are throwing lots of things from previous lessons into factoring. So for number 2, our GCF here, we do have a 3 and a 30. We could factor out a 3 from both of those. And then we've got a v squared and a v, so I can take one v out. So our GCF is 3v. And then maybe what I'll do on this one is show you. So we need to divide so 3 divided by 3 is 1. V squared divided by V is V. Plus 30 divided by 3 is 10. V divided by V, those cancel. And then we have our GCF on the outside. So 3V times the quantity V plus 10. We've got 3n squared plus 12n minus 36. So we have a quadratic again, but we don't have a 1 here, which is going to change everything. But what we can look to see is if the 3 is a GCF. So we've got 3, 12, and plus a GCF of 3. And here we've got an n squared, an n, and then no n. So I can't take out any n's because I don't have an n here to take away. But I can pull out that 3. And remember, we're basically dividing everything by 3. We divide by 3 here and we get 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Then we have our n. And minus 36 divided by 3. Now we have our 3 on the outside, but we also have a quadratic inside where the coefficient of our first term is a 1. And we can use our steps from yesterday. So we want to find factors of negative 12 that add to positive 4. So because we've got a negative 12 here, factor and one negative factor. So if I start negative 1 times 12 does give me 12, and negative 1 plus 12 only gives me 11, or it gives me 11, that's not 4. And it will reach a point here where I am not going to list out like every single factor. That will be very time consuming as far as taking notes, but obviously I will do as you do them on your own. You will need to do as many as you need to do. If you can look at this and clearly say, well, I can do 1 and 12, obviously, but that's not going to give me a factor of 4, a sum of 4, then don't even try that. But, and hopefully some of you will reach the point where you're kind of able to figure out what factors you have without doing the whole table. So I'm going to jump to, I'm not going to ready that's not going to give me a sum of 4. So I'll try a negative 2 times 6. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. And negative 2 plus 6 is a positive 4. Be very careful when you're doing this step here that you're getting the correct sign on your sum here, which we have done. So these are the factors that we want to use inside our binomial. So the 3 is still part of the game. You got to bring him down. And then I've got a negative 2 and a positive 6. So this here is our final answer. Number 4, a coefficient of 1 here, x squared minus 6x minus 16. So we have no GCF. But we always need to check. So again, we're trying to get factors of negative 6 that add to negative 6. We need a positive factor and a negative factor to give us a negative 16. So if I did negative 1 times 16, I get negative 16. Negative 1 plus 16 gives me 15. So I'm not really close. I need to keep moving. Negative 2 times 8. Negative 2 plus 8 gives me positive 6. So I got my 6, but my sign on my 6 is wrong. So I'm going to switch the negative from my 2 to the 8. So 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. Check. 2, 2 plus negative 8, or 2 minus 8, is negative 6, which is what I'm looking for. And I found my correct signs. So I've got x plus 2 and x minus 8. And remember, these, it doesn't matter which order they go in. You could have the x minus 8 here and the x plus 2. It doesn't matter. And same over on this side. As long as everything's being multiplied together, I could have 3 times n plus 6. The order does not matter. When we multiply things together, order does not matter. One of your properties, do you remember which? All right. On the back, we've got, there we are, 3k squared minus 36k plus 105. So we do have a coefficient here of 3, which we do not want. And GCF. So first we need to factor out our GCF. We get k squared minus 12k plus 35. And I'm going to set up my binomials. So we're looking for factors of 35. 12. If you look back on your notes, we've got a negative and a positive. When you have a negative first and a positive, you have 2 negative binomials. So we have a negative and a negative here, which means when we list our factors of 35 that add to negative 12, so negative 1 times 30, negative 35 is not going to give me 12. I could say, well, negative 5 times negative 7, that's going to give me 12. So negative 5 and number 6, x squared minus 14x plus 48. So we have a minus and a plus, so if you want to fill in your minus signs first, that's okay. Of 48, they're both going to be negative. And we want them to add to negative 14. So I could do 1 times 48. These are both negative. But I know that. Negative 2 times negative 24. It's not working for me. 3 times 16. Not working. Times negative 12. Not working for me. Negative 6 times negative 8. Look at that. That's working for me. So negative 6 minus 8 is negative 14. Negative 6 times negative 8 is positive 48. So we have 6 and 8. I already have my negative signs in. They both need to be negative, and we're done. Number 7, x squared minus x minus 42. No GCF. So if you are kind of peeking at your sign rules, we've got a negative and a negative, which means one of our factors is going to be positive and one is going to be negative. These are sort of the harder ones because you have to make the correct sign to the correct factor. So we're multiplying to 48, adding to negative 1. And one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. You can start with 1 and 48. It's just, we're at 42. It's pretty obvious right away that I'm not going to get negative 1. So I'll try negative 2 and 21. It's still not going to give me negative 1. Negative 6 times 7 gives me a positive 1. But if I move my negative to my 7, so my negative sign needs to go with my 7, and my positive sign needs to go with my 6. So this is where if you're filling in, so some people when they set up their binomials, they like to fill in their signs first based on our rules, and that's where you could just put the 7 with the negative and the 6 with the positive. Either way, just make sure that it's going to the correct sign. Number 8, 2n squared plus 20n plus 42. So we do have a GCF here. We need a factor out of 2. So we get n squared plus 10n plus 21. We have a plus and a plus. These are the easiest ways. They just feel more straightforward. So we're looking for numbers that multiply to 21 and add to 10. And obviously 1 and 21 is not going to work, so I'm going to skip to 3 times 7. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 plus 7. Since they're both positive, I can just stick the 3 in one binomial and the 7 in the other. Number 9. 2x squared plus 18x plus 40. So I do have a GCF of 2, so I'm going to divide 2. I got x squared plus 9x plus 20. Set up my binomials. They're both positive, so I can just go ahead and go x plus, and try to figure out what my factors are. So factors of 20 with a sum of 9. I could do 9. I could do 2 and 10, also not going to give me 9. 4 times 5 gives me 20. 4 plus 5 gives me 9. So I've got a 4 and a 5. Just stick the 4 on one side and the 5 on the other. And number 10, r squared plus 56. All right, so this is one, let me talk about this again real quick. This is one where we've got a plus and a minus, a plus first, a minus second, which means we are going to have one factor that's positive and one that's negative. I told you these are the harder ones because you have to make sure you're putting your factors with the correct sign. This is where, I'll do this one different. I'll set this one up with my So factors of negative 56 with the sum of positive 1. I could do 1 and 56. I mean, that's not going to get me anywhere close to a sum of 1. I could keep going. I'm just going to jump because I like to do that at a certain point. And I could say, well, negative 7, negative 56. And negative 7 plus 8 gives me a positive 1. So this is telling me that the 7 needs to be negative. So because I put my negative sign here, my 7 is going to go there. And my 8 is the positive. So that's going to go with the positive side. Remember, you want more numbers here, more power, more weight to go in the positive direction because so that's why the positive is the 8 and the negative is the 7. And that's it. So this was factoring GCF and factoring quadratics. Remember, always check for GCF before you start factoring.